Alumni Portal, a robust world-class. Welcome to the RDU Connect Alumni Portal, a robust world-class platform to help you, our alumni, keep connected with each other and the university. In just a few seconds, you can register on the platform using your personal email address or your linked Google, Facebook, or LinkedIn account. Once you have registered and logged in, you can build your personal profile by clicking on the user icon here. You're in control. You decide what information you want to share. You'll also see a menu here on the left-hand side. This menu boasts all the features of the site, including a feed, which is the heartbeat of the platform. A personalized feed will deliver up convenient posts and rich media content. Then there's the directory. This holds all the details which you and your fellow alumni have shared. You can view new jobs, find people and companies, or search for a mentor. If you'd like to offer your expertise or need support as a mentee, immediate sign-up is at your fingertips here under the Mentoring Opportunities tab. Alumni can also easily alert other members to shared jobs postings under the Jobs tab. Want to share current or nostalgic photos and memories to keep up to date with fellow alumni? You can do so under the Photos tab. However, if you prefer a more personal connection with secure discussions, simply join a closed group over here. Our Events tab will allow you to easily find and register for events that interest you, or you may even post your own. Heading over to the Resources tab, you are able to share documents, videos, and other materials safely in an organized way. If you want to see who else has joined the platform recently, then head back to the feed and check out the new members here on the right-hand side. And of course, you can also keep connected through our social media feeds. As for those of you who are always on the go, you can also access all of these features through our convenient mobile RDU Connect app. So, power up your career with the RDU network. Join RDU Connect today.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. Good evening and welcome, everyone, to our leadership conversation between Dr. Sizwe Mabizela and, of course, Unathi Kamlana. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us. We are super excited of this conversation. You just saw us run a couple of videos through you, which show at least our distinguished alumni for 2021. Of course, one of them I'm sure you saw was one of our guests. And of course, our interactive website, you can definitely check that out at www.rdu.ac.za. So we are probably going to take about a couple of minutes just to let everyone come in, settle in, get comfortable, and get ready for the next hour. In the meantime, I'll tell you a bit more about the Distinguished Alumni Awards and also possibly how you could be on this side of the conversation as well, and also touching on some house rules that are coming through. Just to remind everyone at home, these conversations are proudly brought to you by Rhodes University's Division for Communication and Advancements, simply fostering productive and lifelong relationships with our alumni. Now, I'm sure some of you guys have been watching the videos that have been carrying on in the background. And just to tell you more about the Distinguished Alumni Award, each year the nomination process is opened, which is around about May 2021, and anyone can nominate a Rhodes alumni that they feel is deserving. But there's a specific criteria. It has to be someone that's made a significant contribution to society, to the university, as well as their professional fields. So it has to literally take quite a number of marks. If you want to know who are some of the people that have been able to get this coveted awards, you can definitely go on our website and have a look at the full list. It dates back to 2005. Since 2005, 2019, 2020, 2021, believe me, all the amazing Rhodes alumni are definitely on that website. Just to rehash for you, some of the distinguished alumni for 2021 includes the likes of Dr. Roger N. Skun, Mr. Unathi Kamlana, who is our guest today, as well as Miss Heloise Henning Emden and Mr. Bernard Peter Agalas. So they are the coveted winners for this year. And if you're wondering what's the criteria, personal achievement, service to society, university service, as well as professional achievement as well. So if you think you've got what it takes, you definitely can get a colleague or a friend to simply nominate you and see if you've got what it takes. Now, if you're joining us for the very first time, I don't know where you've been because this is the second time around we are doing these leadership conversation. If you remember last year, we celebrated our 2020 distinguished alumni guests. We had the likes of Professor Robert Morale. We had the likes of Brian O'Shea simply being celebrated right here on this platform. This time around, we're going to be bringing you the newly appointed Financial Sector Conduct Authority Commissioner, Unathi Kamlana, alongside Rhodes' very own Dr. Sizwe Mabizela. And just to give you an idea about the man we're going to be speaking to today, he is newly appointed. In fact, he is 5 months into his 5-year appointment, just to give you an idea of how fresh everything is. If you know and remember very well, he was the head of department responsible for policy, statistics, and industry support within the South African Reserve Bank. He was also the chair, he is the chair 2021 of the Financial Stability Board peer review of the United Kingdom. And if you do remember correctly, he was also sent on an international delegation to Canada and Australia in 2016 that led to the adoption of the Twin Peak model in South Africa, which I'm sure will definitely come up throughout this conversation. And why we're talking to him, of course, is because he is one of our own from Rhodes University. He has a Master's of Commerce degree in taxation from Rhodes University. But I'll let Miss Sibusisiwe Malinga tell us a bit more about that later on. I'm just checking for time now, making sure that we're not too short. It's 4:15. I'm going to let everyone else settle in, come in, and don't forget the topic that we have for today is called Excellence and Diligence in the Public Service. A conversation brought to you by Rhodes University's Division for Communication and Advancements, fostering productive lifelong relationships. I am ready, and I hope you are ready because we're definitely about to get this show on the road. So I'll give you 1 minute to settle down, catch your breath. I see my guests are coming in thick and fast, and I see people are joining us as well. So let's take a breath and get ready to get started. Cool. So good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking your time to join us from all corners of the world and the country at large. We know our alumni network and interest crosses borders and bounds. So thank you so much for sharing this evening with us. In this new series, we welcome to our leadership conversations. We're going to be welcoming our 2021 Distinguished Alumni Award recipients, where we're simply going to be honoring and acknowledging the embodiment of our motto called Where Leaders Learn. If you're wondering what my name is Nontobeko Khumalo CBC. I'm a broadcaster, storyteller, and founder of OK Show Media, and I will certainly be your facilitator throughout this conversation. If you have any congratulatory messages that you would like to send to our guest today, please be sure to write on the chat right there on the conversation, and I'm sure he'll be able to read it in the background as well. But just to give you an idea of the conversation for today, with the topic of excellence and diligence in the public service. So in this conversation, we'll really be looking into how can we promote better leadership in the public service, which is something that we desperately need in our country and globally. We're going to be looking at the ethical mindsets of leaders at a time when it's so easy to contribute to the erosion of society. We read often in the papers and in the news about corruption, about greed, about pursuits of wealth rather than the public service, often creating stumbling blocks towards our growth here and there. So what really brings about the breakdown of people's ability to act ethically in an effective way, especially now at our weakest time? There's high unemployment, compounded by poverty, as well as the pandemic, which is triggering heavy losses, jobs, incomes, and livelihood. So understand when I say today's topics of excellence and diligence in the public service as important, it is definitely important. And some of the points rather that we will be going through are on ethical leadership, competency, results and delivery, impact, and society. And just before we start, I would like to make special acknowledgement to some of our audience members that are here today, which includes the likes of Rhodes University Chancellor, members of the University Council, members of the Board of Governors, and the executive management of the university. And of course, a special announcement to the Governor of the South African Reserve Bank, Mr. Kganyago, as well as the Kamlana family in all their entirety that have been able to be part of this conversation today. And of course, a special note and announcement to Este Coetzee, who's the retired coordinator in the Commerce Extended Studies program. So super happy to have everyone here for the conversation. Just to run through our order of proceedings, we're going to head off now to a reading of a citation by Ms. Sizwe Malinga, followed by our congratulatory speech by Dr. Sizwe Mabizela. Before that, we're going to head on straight into the conversation and meet none other than Unathi Kamlana. But before that, let's greet Sizwe Malinga, who actually met Unathi Kamlana in her first year because she was also at Rhodes. And one of the things that I love is that she made sure that she included in the nomination that Unathi Kamlana, they met in their first year as students at Rhodes, and it was inspirational to witness a dynamic man from the dusty streets of Mdantsane township become a World Economic Forum Leader Award winner. His accomplishments and affiliations and impressive career history make him a remarkable Rhodes University alumni. And those are not my words. Those are Sibusiso Malinga's words, who is coming up right after this. So Busiso, hello and welcome. And thank you for nominating such an astounding man.
Thank you, Program Director. Thank you. Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sizwe Mabizela, Mr. Unathi Kamlana, and distinguished guests, good afternoon. It was a privilege and honor to nominate Mr. Unathi Kamlana, who was born and bred in Mdantsane. He completed his matric in 1997. He joined Rhodes University in 1998 to enroll for a Bachelor of Commerce degree under the Extended Studies program. His initial attraction to Rhodes University was the availability of funding for him to pursue his post-matric studies. He quickly realized that joining the Extended Studies program was like joining a family and not just like a university, and is still in contact with most of his classmates and the then coordinator of the program, Mrs. Este Coetzee. As a result, Kamlana demonstrated a strong work ethic throughout his undergraduate studies. He was an active member of the Grahamstown Assemblies of God Church. Personally, I used to interact with him at the Assemblies of God Society, or ASEMSOC for short. We were a group of young, vibrant students who gathered on Friday nights in a small, dimly lit basement on campus to praise and worship God. We all shared ideas, insights, and thoughts on how to succeed as students. After successfully completing his Bachelor of Commerce degree, Kamlana joined Standard Bank in 2002 as a Credit Risk Analyst and quickly moved up the corporate ladder to middle management level by the time he left the employ of Standard Bank in 2005. In the same year, Kamlana returned to Rhodes University to pursue a Master of Commerce degree in Taxation, at which time he joined the National Treasury as a Senior Economist. Between November 2005 and September 2011, Kamlana occupied the roles of Director of Economics of Taxation with a specialization in income tax and savings. Thereafter, he occupied the role of Director of Prudential Regulation and thereafter Chief Director of Financial Markets and Stability at the National Treasury. Between October 2011 and October 2014, Kamlana took up the post of Secretary of the Financial Regulatory Reform Steering Committee and Executive Assistant to the then Deputy Governor Lesetja Kganyago. Kamlana leads by example and does not shy away tough challenges. In July 2015, Kamlana was appointed at the Prudential Authority of the South African Reserve Bank, where he was the head of department responsible for policy, statistics, and industry support. In April 2021, after a rigorous selection process and a recommendation by the selection panel, the Minister of Finance, in consultation with the Deputy Minister of Finance and the Director General of National Treasury, appointed Kamlana as Commissioner of the Financial Sector Conduct Authority for a period of 5 years effective from 1st June 2021. Kamlana is a diligent public servant, and while at the South African Reserve Bank, he worked tirelessly on the implementation of the Twin Peaks reforms from 2011 to 2018, and was part of the original team that proposed the new and tougher system for regulating the financial sector. Kamlana also holds a Master of Science in Finance, specializing in economic policy, degree from the University of London, and a higher diploma in taxation law from the University of the Witwatersrand. He also attended several development courses in finance, taxation, and regulation, both locally and internationally. While at the South African Reserve Bank, he was a member of the Financial Stability Committee, the Standard Committee for the Revision of the National Payment System Act, and co-chair of the Financial Markets Implementation Committee, and has served on various international committees. For instance, he is the current chairman of the 2020-2021 Financial Stability Board Peer Review of the United Kingdom. He is also a World Economic Forum Young Global Leader Award winner. Kamlana is a very active community leader and a member of the Assemblies of God Church in Orlando, Soweto. Kamlana and his wife, Kelebogile, who is also an old Rhodian, actively engage in talks to educate the community about the importance of sound financial planning. He is also a member of the Finance Committee of the Assemblies of God Church at national level and a former national youth chairperson of the church. Kamlana is a very proud old Rhodian and a worthy recipient of the 2021 Distinguished Alumni Award. He credits his excellent leadership capabilities to the foundation that was laid by Rhodes University in his undergraduate years. I thank you.
Thank you so much for the beautiful read of the citation. I'll now hand over to the VC for a congratulatory speech from him. VC, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Nantobego. Family and friends and colleagues of our recipient of the award, Commissioner Kamlana, Rhodes University alumni who are joining us virtually from all parts of the globe, our esteemed guests, Governor of our Reserve Bank, Governor Lesetja Kganyago, fellow South Africans, Rhodes University leadership, staff, and students. And of course, our distinguished alumnus, Commissioner Unathi Kamlana. Our university honors and celebrates its alumni who have distinguished themselves in our society and beyond through the award of the Rhodes University Distinguished Alumni Award. The aim of the award is to recognize Rhodes University alumni who, through their actions and achievements, selfless service to humankind, have enhanced the reputation of their alma mater. It acknowledges the recipients as outstanding role models for our current and future generations of Rhodes University students. The recipient of this award should personify attributes and values of social justice, empathy, kindness, decency, integrity, honesty, compassion, civility, and human solidarity. These are the values that Rhodes University seeks to inculcate and reinforce in its graduates. We want our graduates to place their knowledge and their skills and their expertise at the service of our society and humanity. So on behalf of our council, and our chancellor, and the entire Rhodes University community, I offer our heartfelt congratulations to you, Commissioner Kamlana, on your well-deserved recognition by your alma mater with the Rhodes University Distinguished Alumni Award. We are immensely proud of you, and we are immensely proud of your contribution to our nation. Like many of our graduates, you refused that your future should be determined by the circumstances of your upbringing in the dusty streets of Mdantsane. You rose above those through hard work, determination, fortitude, courage, and commitment to personal excellence. Yours is an inspiring story of personal triumph over circumstances of challenge. I sincerely hope that South Africans, young and old, will be inspired by your story and your significant achievements. And thank you for flying the flag of our university with great honor and distinction. We claim you as our own because you are our own. As your alma mater, we salute you, we honor you, we celebrate you, and we commend you for all that you have done and continue to do. We are indeed immensely proud of you, and we are deeply honored to count you among our most distinguished alumni. Once more, hearty congratulations to you, Commissioner Kamlana. And Tobago, as we honor and celebrate the contribution and achievements of one of our own, we also acknowledge with much appreciation and immense gratitude all the healthcare workers who are in the front line of our national fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Every single day, as they save the lives of others, they place their own lives and those of their own family members at a huge risk. We owe them an unpayable debt of gratitude. We honor and salute them for their heroism, dedication, and selfless service to our nation and humankind. And we commend them for their courage, bravery, and exemplary professionalism in these extraordinarily trying times. You know what? We are not powerless or helpless, nor are we without agency in ridding our nation of this scourge. We must all play our role. We must avail ourselves for vaccination and adhere to the non-pharmaceutical measures to prevent the spread of this virus. So I urge all of us, if we have not done so, that we avail ourselves for vaccination so that our nation can get back to work and that people like Commissioner Kamlana can continue to be exemplary in our society. I thank you very much. Again, hearty congratulations, Commissioner Kamlana. Thank you.
Beautiful indeed, VC. Thank you so much. Unathi Kamlana, you might as well come on to our screen and fetch your flowers while you can still smell them, please. Do come join the conversation. We are excited to hear more about some of your personal reflections at your time at Rhodes. We understand that you were there to do your master's there at Rhodes University. We obviously want to know more. Where did this dream come about? And understanding much more about the initial footsteps of the actual vision itself. Commissioner Kamlana, if you could please come join us as we celebrate you and your journey.
Thank you very much, Nontobeko. Let me acknowledge the leadership of the university, the Vice Chancellor, the executives of the university, honored guests, friends and family, and ladies and gentlemen. And really, Dr. Mabizela, thank you very much for your generous congratulatory remarks. I'll try to be very brief. I have not prepared a very long speech. I'm very grateful to the university for this award. It's not something that I had expected at all, certainly not yet. In terms of my life, I see my life as still a developing story. That's what the journalists usually say. So I'm very grateful for this. is quite encouraging. I think it's quite different. Whatever one's achievements have been, it's different when it is your alma mater that thinks that you are doing something right. So this is quite special, very special to me. Maybe to spend a few minutes just reflecting on my time at Rhodes. I was very young, I think just around 17 years old. I was turning 18 in my first year when I arrived at Rhodes. But I think it's quite important to start the reflection in Mdantsane. That's where the journey really begins. The place which really shaped my outlook. It's where I was taught many things that were important for the journey that I then started at Rhodes University, and the journey that's led us to where we are today. I was taught in Mdantsane to dream, to pray, to serve, to fight for what is right, to work hard in realizing one's dreams. And I think importantly, given that context, I was also taught to hope, which was a very important trait given the circumstances. And at Rhodes, it was to be the best 4 years of my life. Lifelong friendships were established there. I also got to meet the greatest human beings, certainly that I've ever met in my life, including Mrs. Coetzee, who was the coordinator of the BCom Foundation, as it was then known, the Extended Studies Program in Commerce. She was also my Maths 1G senior lecturer in the Stats department at the time. And I think she does deserve special mention today. We learned a lot from her and her life's example. I think one of the things that I learned from her is the importance of visionary leadership. You know, when you believe in something, to give it your all, regardless of your current circumstances. And she invested in us when it was probably risky to do so. So we're quite grateful for the investment she made in our lives. A lot of my shaping and leadership exposure also pertained to the work that we did in the social life of the university. I was a member of ASEMSOC. I think Sizwe already spoke to this. Spent a lot of Friday evenings in the dungeon. That's where we used to hold our Assemblies of God Society meetings. And on Saturday afternoons, we had VOG, Voice of Glory, choir practices, I think in the same venue as well. But I must quickly interrupt myself to also report that academically, I also didn't let the side down. The record does show a number of distinctions. And one of the things I always talked to my friends about was the fact that I never returned to write a supplementary exam. So I passed all my exams first time around. So just thought I'd mention that as well. And then importantly, in terms of my journey at Rhodes, in my final year, my fourth and final year, I met the love of my life. I met my wife at Rhodes. We've been married for 17 years now, 3 boys, Mrs. Kamlana, all the way from Northwest. And if you count the number of universities between Rustenburg and Makhanda, I think it's no less than 6. So I don't think she was looking for a university. I think she was looking for me. And thank God for Rhodes. She did find me. Rhodes was also a place of inspiration. It was a place of new beginnings. I met a lot of young people with incredible stories of triumph over adversity, who against all odds won the fight to make it to university. And many South Africans, of course, will understand what I'm talking about when I talk about fighting the odds to make it to university, because it's not easy. And then when they got to university, also appreciated that failing was not an option, because our success was not just our success. It was to determine the fortunes of those who were going to come after us. And we had that responsibility, and we appreciated that. And in addition to those who were going to come after us, there were also those who had invested in us and whose lives' outcomes depended on our success at university. And we're really very proud to have made them as proud as we have so far. Rhodes was also a place of preparation. Taught us a lot about discipline and structure, about independent thought, robust engagement and articulation, analysis, and so on. Things which were going to be very important skills and expertise and lessons for the life that was ahead of us. And certainly for me, been life's lessons which have helped shape the person that I have become. So I really want to acknowledge everyone who's been part of this journey, who've been part of this developing story. God, my wife, my family, the boys. It really occurs to me that it's actually the people who've stood by us from day one, who gave us opportunities, who invested in us even when it was not fashionable to do so. I think it's those people who are most deserving of today's award and recognition. And we are very grateful to them for their foresight and for their courage. And then we are hoping, of course, to still continue to make them proud in the roles that we play currently. So let me leave it there, Nontobeko, and we can pick up some of what I leave in the conversation to follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Unathi, for that very bright and vivid story and really taking us essentially back down to memory lane. I do want to bring over the VC to this conversation now and really open it up to you, VC, and saying that building ethical leadership and competency really, by the sounds of what Unathi is saying, really does start from an early age. And especially for you from a university perspective, tell us about some of those resources that you have to make available so that you ensure that this is where leaders learn, rightfully.
Thank you very much, Nontobeko. I've come to know that our commissioner is Skomo Muchangisa. So I will take the liberty of referring to you as Como Commissioner. So thank you very much. And I think you have touched on very important issues. And maybe I should also indicate that while your wife found you at Rhodes, you also found her there. So you found each other. So thank you very much. But I think you have mentioned something incredibly important about creating opportunities, that it's a result of others who created opportunities for you to be where you are. And I think that is important because there are many young people who are academically deserving, who do not have resources. And therefore, if we all can see to it that they are afforded that opportunity to realize their potential and be our future commissioners to serve this nation. So thank you very much for acknowledging that and acknowledging all those who have played an important role to you. From the Rhodes University, you are always open and ready to receive every young person, because we believe each one of them has an opportunity to be the commissioner that you are. So thank you. And I invite all our guests to make whatever contribution they can. And I know that many already do. Let's talk about leadership, SCOM. You have already spoken about visionary leadership. And more generally, when we talk about leadership, we generally think about politicians and we think about leadership in business sector. But these are individuals. These are individual people who have had certain experiences in life. And so given what I consider to be an epic failure of leadership in our country, how do we develop leaders, ethical leadership, moral leadership, people who can lead, because these are individuals. I'll come back to this point, so let me just hear you, because these are critical aspects of our society at the moment.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor, for that. I think that it really, as you say, starts with the individual, because what is ethical leadership? Ethical leadership is really about a values basis of leadership. And it's quite clear to me that that is not something that can only be the responsibility of political leadership. It is in every home, it is therefore in every individual to inculcate strong values so that those values become the basis as people assume responsibilities and leadership responsibilities, become the basis upon which they build. If you talk about, for example, what I usually refer as the construct, the conceptual construct of ethical leadership, I think the first is probity. The second is a subset of that, which is integrity. And those two concepts talk to being seen and also being beyond reproach. And I think that's probably where we have come short as a nation. And we are busy in the process of paying a very high price for not insisting on these integrity and probity as requirements, as absolutely basic requirements of leadership. And if you get those right, my sense is that then you have the building blocks for selfless conduct and execution in leadership. And everything turns on leadership. So if you have those embedded in your leaders, then those whom they lead will learn from them, and you have them become a culture in organizations and in the context of our conversation, of course, in the public service. So that's what I think are building blocks of ethical leadership and why it's important in public service.
I spoke about, sorry, Nanto.
Go for it.
And I've spoken about this epic failure of leadership. And again, these are people who have been brought up, they've been raised in families, they have been socialized as we all have been. Where have we failed? I'm saying this because where we have seen some of the failures and where we have seen, consumptive excesses is in respect of those who have means. These are not poor people. We have been failed by people who have means. And linked to that, how do we define a sense of enoughness? Because there is abundance in this country for us to share and all live a decent life. And yet there are those who are greedy, who are keeping all the wealth to themselves, and over and above that, all the looting that is taking place. And I really want you to help us understand how we might develop our individual sense of enoughness, so that I can say, yes, I have enough. I can live on this. I can share the rest with those who are less fortunate than I am.
It's an incredibly, deep question, Dr. Mabizela, because I think it starts with how we define success. The things that we celebrate and reward. And those things, of course, start with the family unit. They start with society. Before people behave in the way that they do when they are leaders, there is an entire frame of reference that they've been exposed to, growing up and being exposed to society. This issue that you talked to of materialism, conspicuous consumption, and all of these things that we celebrate, regardless of what the source of the means are, to afford the things that people can afford, and therefore they flaunt for others. And also, of course, the role of technology. So I won't mention names here so that I'm safe after the session. Where we celebrate pictures which obviously have no relationship with the reality of people's lives, and people going out of their way to give an impression of a certain type of lifestyle, because they think that if they can, then they become more acceptable in society. So it's the confluence of all those factors that contributes to this. And I don't want to paint this picture so that we can feel very helpless about what can be done, because I think we can do something about it. And it starts with the individual. It starts with what we reward, what we acknowledge, what we celebrate in terms of success for our children, for ourselves, our appreciation of contentment, our appreciation of patience and waiting, and so on. So I think there are specific things that individuals and families and then society can start to do to de-emphasize the things that we know are problematic and have led us to where we are as a nation today.
Thank you, Skomo. Nonto, you wanted to come in?
Yes, definitely. I wanted to say on your point that surely it also comes through with the transparency of leadership and holding leadership accountable as well. And I'm sure as the people at the helm, a lot of people will often criticize many of the works to say, where is the transparency, especially amongst very, very diverse voices? So tell us about managing that in a fair and equitable way so that it really doesn't affect the progress that we have set to make.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Nondo, for that. Accountability is a necessary mechanism to regulate power. And it's something that we have got as citizens to appreciate a little bit more and insist on. I think that while there are, and these are important to have, there are legal structures, so Parliament exercising oversight over the executive, and of course there's the justice system, and so on. You can take people to court and so on. I do think that we also have individual responsibilities to hold leaders accountable. And of course, in South Africa, we've got a constitutional democracy with checks and balances, including the opportunity to vote regularly, at least every 5 years. And these are the things that citizenry has to take seriously in order to ensure that our accountability mechanisms work and are effective. And we also need to be much more discerning, I think, as citizens about, who do we vote for? What do we expect from them? How do we hold them accountable? How do we interact and relate to them? Because sometimes we give them the impression that they're doing us a favor, when obviously that's not the case at all. They are in positions of responsibility to serve the public interest and therefore to serve the public. That is what they are in those responsibilities for. And when they fail to, whoever they may be, it is up to the public what happens to them. So it's having those things and taking those as our own individual responsibilities. And when we are unhappy, for example, to not say I'm not voting because I'm unhappy. That's irresponsible. You have a responsibility to vote because you have to make sure that those who are given the privilege of exercising public power are also subjected to accountability mechanisms to that public. And if we do those things and establish those responsibilities, I think we will have much better, far better outcomes around holding those in public office accountable for their actions.
Skomo, just 2 quick points. One, based on what you have just said, we need to create this understanding of leadership as an opportunity to serve, not as some kind of entitlement, but as an opportunity to serve and not for personal accumulation and the like. And secondly, I was very pleased to Here's Sizwe in the citation that you and your wife are educating people about financial matters, because the majority of South Africans are hugely in debt, and the debt they carry is not productive debt, it is consumptive debt. People living way above their means. And I think these are very important lessons that we need to take forward. But let's move on to issues of competence and ensuring that we have capable and competent people at every level. What is your take? Because we have seen in some instances where people who have been appointed to very important positions have been found wanting. How do we insist on ensuring that in position, in fact, at every level, we employ people that are competent, that are capable, over and above all the other skills?
Quite correct. I mean, at its most basic level, this issue is about capacity. The idea that the people who work in the public service, and in fact, anyway, it's just that in this context, we're talking about the public sector, that those people have the necessary preparation in terms of training, qualifications, skills, and expertise for what they are paid to do. I mean, I know this sounds very trite, very banal, very straightforward, but it's not happened, I think, in the context of our country. We have to start to think about the public service as a place of competent actors. And it's not impossible to achieve this. We have to insist, and when I say we, I'm saying citizenry, the public, have to insist that those who work for government, those who work in the public service, can show that they qualify for the positions that they hold. And when that does not happen, again, linked to the conversation we were just having about accountability, to make sure that we hold those in power who are making these decisions around appointment accountable for when they get it wrong. And I think it's important to maybe differentiate here between technocrats and politicians. It is for me really that technocrats are not serving political bosses. Technocrats are serving the public. Technocrats run the machinery of the state, which is the tangible link between what the state promises in terms of progress and development. And that progress and development and its outcomes being visible in the lives of citizens. And if therefore we don't insist on the issue of competence, again, it is us as citizens who pay the price. When you have people in very important positions, from municipality services right up to national institutions, who are unable to think critically, analytically, to communicate very clearly, verbal and written communication, understand technology, management expertise, all of these things that you need, all of these things that you require if you are to deliver services effectively and efficiently. So it's just to make the link between competence and what we then get as delivery. And if we don't make this link and insist on it, we suffer the consequences. Because competence in public service rises together with development. We are going to see poorer development outcomes as long as we don't insist on a competent workforce in the public service. So that's really the idea and the issue around competence in public service.
Nanta, you want to come in here?
Yes, please. I'm interested in finding out then, surely then we should also talk about disrupting the incompetence, particularly with new leaderships coming in. For example, someone such as yourself, you come into a new position, you have to talk at some point about where do you disrupt the incompetencies within the organization, because surely that's where the change then will start taking an effect, right?
No, absolutely. And this links back to ethical leadership. So you can have new leadership if they are committed to leading ethically, then through the performance management systems of the organization, they will be able to manage for better delivery and better outcomes, because you will disrupt systems like nepotism and so on, which make it impossible to insist on competence. Remember, all of these things feed off of each other. If there's absence of ethics, then you will have corruption. If there's corruption, then you have nepotism. Then you have all manner of things which establish a culture within the public service. And of course, this is also relevant for the private sector as well, which will ensure that you have far poorer outcomes than the alternative. So absolutely correct. The commitment of leadership has to be to an ethical brand of leadership, and everything else will flow from that. And in fact, some conversations you won't even need to have. Once you demonstrate ethical leadership, then others understand what they need to do to fit in. Everything turns on leadership.
Changisa, I'm just going to pick up some of the questions that have been posted on the chat box. The first one is, what specific ethical behaviors are required of all leaders? Secondly, where do we need to clarify our mission and values to make it clear that we are ethical organizations and that ethics are not negotiable? Ethics are not negotiable. Changis?
Yeah, very, very good questions. I mean, I think to just re-emphasize the point I was making earlier, the issue around ethical leadership is not just a vague statement. It's about values. So if you take it to the level of values, you're talking about honesty, you're talking about trust, you're talking about respect, you're talking about excellence. These are things that people in their interactions with a leader or with each other in an organization, they know whether they exist or not. And once you have those things embedded in an organization, then you start to really see a step change in that organization, what it stands for, what it insists on, and therefore what it can deliver. Professionalism, and so on, all of those things. And I want to just make this point, because sometimes we leave this to others and take no responsibility as individuals. Also, it is individuals at whatever level in the organization who in their behavior should also check, am I being honest? Small things. Have you arrived on time? Are you leaving at the time that you're supposed to be leaving? What is your accountability mechanism in the usage of the time of the organization? It's small things like that that we start to take light and then erode the entire values basis of the organization. If you are quickly going to take your child to the doctor, what do you actually say to your boss about what you're doing or where you're going? If you're going to use the work time to go shopping, what do you actually say? How do you process that as an individual? So it's those small actions of individuals, which if we leave them unchecked, start to erode the values basis. So every single individual in the organization, regardless of their place, while leadership is important and all of these things should be leader-led, every single person has got a contribution and a role to play that we should not think of as insignificant.
Thank you very much. I must indicate that last week we were very privileged to have the former governor of the Reserve Bank, Mr. Tito Mboweni, who addressed Rhodes University, in fact, South Africa, on issues of values-based leadership. And I really think we have spent a lot of time on leadership because it is important. It sets the tone, and the issues of ensuring that we have competent and capable people in our public sector, but also in our private sector, which then takes us to the issue of delivery, because you won't be able to deliver if you are not competent. Could you just touch on the issue, the aspect of delivery of results and why this is important, why it is important for us as ordinary people to hold people to what they have promised to deliver?
Thanks for that. I mean, so this for me is where the rubber hits the road. We really need to move to a place, a society where we have established and transparent methods to measure effectiveness, to measure delivery. Because in our case, we have a constitutional democracy. In the Constitution, there are specific promises which are contained in the Bill of Rights. Equality before the law, freedom of trade, occupation and profession, freedom of expression, inherent dignity, and so on. All of these things that are listed in our Constitution. It is a competent machinery of the state that delivers on those promises. Put it another way, without a competent state or competent state actors, a lot of those promises contained in the Bill of Rights would be a pipe dream for many of us, especially those who are poor, who don't have means, who are unemployed, especially in our context of high unemployment, inequality, and deep levels of poverty. So this is why we have to insist on delivery. And when we see delivery failings, hold those who made the promises accountable, including by making others, giving others the opportunity to deliver where others have failed. All of these things hang together.
Nanta?
Sorry, was on mute.
You want to come in there?
I also want to talk about the delivery, I guess, and results from the public perspective, because from a public perspective, it's a measure of what do I have in my hand? How has my life considerably changed from all the delivery and the results that are there? And often I feel like there's usually a misalignment between the people on the ground and also the people in terms of leadership. The people on the ground want certain things in their hand. Leadership says, but there's this policy, but there's that policy. So the conversation between practicality and policy sometimes often misses each other. So how do we get the people on the ground to understand this definition of what is delivery, what is results?
I think there's a few ideas, but for me, really at the core is awareness. I have found that in many instances, we really are lacking in investing in ongoing conversations which raise the level of awareness of our communities in a way that's clear, non-complex, and really breaks things down to the level of the individual. Because without the citizens being aware of what their rights and responsibilities and where they can take action and how, we will not be able to achieve these things. So I really think at the very center of a strategy to get this right is to raise the levels of awareness. If you have empowered citizens, they then become their own support system, their own protection against abuse and wrongdoing, because they are empowered through knowledge and awareness. So really at the center of it all has to be investing in awareness.
Let me just pick up on that, because I do want to problematize this notion of service delivery, because in a way it disempowers ordinary citizens, that they have to sit back and wait for government to deliver. Where and when and how do I, as an ordinary citizen, exercise agency? We have the problem of unemployment that you alluded to. Yes, government has to ensure that there's provision of certain services and that we have to hold them accountable through elections and the like. But outside of the processes of election and the like, how do I, as an ordinary citizen, exercise my own agency to extricate myself from this very difficult situation of being unemployed and so on?
What an incredibly important question, Vice Chancellor. And I have to start by saying that absolutely, I'm the captain of my own ship. Others can assist, others can contribute, others can play a role. Yes. But this is my life. And I have full responsibility for what becomes of that life. And it's quite important. I mean, part of the question around awareness is not just awareness in terms of how you hold government accountable. It's also awareness of what other things you can do for yourself. Exactly. As an individual. How do you empower yourself? How do you develop yourself? How do you get more involved in your own development, in community activism, and so on? Things that you shouldn't wait for a government, even the most effective and efficient government, that you shouldn't wait for because they pertain to your own life. So the point that you're making around agency, absolutely critical. So if we get awareness right, it is to start with what you can do for yourself. Initiative, the things that only you can determine. Waking up in the morning, being optimistic, having a plan, managing your energy, your associations, your worldview, your outlook. All of those things, no government can help you. Yes. Those are you. That's you doing you. So absolutely, agency, critical.
Changisa, we are fast running out of. Nanto, do you want to come in?
I say that it links so beautifully with his own personal story, especially with his own involvement in Soweto, especially also with his wife around the issues of sound financial planning. So I like the fact that impact does come back to heighten being part of belonging in a community, being a participant in a community, and identifying what is your specific role within that community. So agency definitely does matter.
Great. Changisa, our time is just fast drawing to the end now. But let me just raise one thing. As Bishop Tutu celebrated his 90th birthday yesterday, an amazing person. He said something which has stuck in my mind. He said, South Africa is a scintillating success waiting to happen. When and how are we going to make it happen? Because I agree with him. We have all the makings of a successful nation. How are we going to make this scintillating success happen?
I mean, I think it goes back to the conversation we've just had now. I think it's when we start to realize what contributions we can make as individuals and to do those things that are up to us to do. I think there's a big sense, I think the last 27 years of waiting for others to act. And huge conversations around how we get others to act. And not really getting to, so what can I do about it? I think we need to get to that point. If you can take the example of unemployment, we talk a lot about what government can do to provide policy direction and certainty and so on. All of these things are quite important. But one of the things that we need to be investing in is to encourage a culture of entrepreneurship, which we've not done so as a nation. I think as a people, we have a very different kind of wiring around working for yourself. Even for our own children, and what we encourage them to pursue is around them getting a job from someone. And that is this kind of success that we want to see. So there are specific things like that, which are up to individuals, each and every one of us, to get right and to do differently. And to think each time we have an opportunity to change, what can I actually do differently? And stay the course and be consistent in just trying out something different. We've tried a lot of things that we keep trying over and over again. It's clear that they don't work. We have to do other things, try something different. So I think we must get to that point across the board. Government actors, but also private sector and individuals to arrive at a different destination in the next 27 years.
Skomo, your parting thoughts. 2-3 parting thoughts.
I mean, I think if I can just recap on what we've been talking about here today, ethical leadership, and not as someone else's problem, but as a challenge of each of us. Self-leadership. If you can't master that, then by the time you have responsibilities to lead others, you would already have failed. And thirdly, change. And that's embracing change and doing things differently for different outcomes. So those would be my parting thoughts. And thank you very much. This has been a much more exciting conversation than I thought it would be. And thank you very much again for the honor that was bestowed on me by the university. Much appreciated.
Thanks. Over to you, Nonto.
Thank you so much. I think truly quite an inspirational story from all the way through his CV and all his achievements from his years at Rhodes University all the way till now. It's really been a pleasure meeting you officially and also just being empowered by a whole lot that you have to say, and also checking myself on where I could practice ethical leadership, but also more importantly, how to be an agent. I think most importantly, really something important to take away. And often as young people, we definitely want a lot of things to be done for us, but so often do we have the willpower to say we can actually execute. So thank you so much for that. I think that's been really, really beautiful. And for you also, VC, do you have any last parting shots that you would like to give us?
All that I can say to all of those who are part of this conversation, thank you very much, Skomo. But more important, we all have a role to play. We are not helpless. We have seen what has come out of the Zondo Commission. That is not us. We can do well and we can build a winning nation. And we all have an important role to play in that regard. Leadership, ethical leadership, moral leadership, accountable leadership, understanding leadership as an opportunity to serve. Serve with honor, serve with integrity, and serve with humility. Thank you very much, Nando.
Thank you very much, VC. Thank you so much to everyone else watching at home. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us. It's been a thoroughly enjoying, informative, and a very, very much empowering. Thank you to everyone at home also who've been sending in their comments on their question on the side. We will, I'm sure, we'll try get to every question. In fact, we'll even do a blog that we can put up so that we make sure that we hear all your comments and your views that are taking place. To everyone at home, thank you so much. And of course, thank you so much to Rhodes University's Division for Communication and Advancements, simply fostering productive and lifelong relationships with our alumni. Thank you very much, VC. From myself, Unondobego, Nabanya Baningi, it's goodbye and good